Well, good afternoon, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started here. Welcome to the SnapVDI Virtual Lunch and Learn. My name is Tyler Newberry. I'll be your host and moderator for the Lunch and Learn today. With me today are Andrew Lacey and Matthew Tinney. They'll be joining us in just a moment, but I wanted to let everyone know a couple of quick things before we got started. So, number one, if you're in a pizza delivery zone and requested a pizza during your registration, that pizza should be arriving within the next few minutes if it hasn't already. Now, sometimes the delivery person does run a few minutes behind. If they are running late, just please be patient. But be sure to let me know if your pizza has not arrived by 1:15 Eastern Daylight Time or so. Email is the quickest way to let me know if your pizza has not arrived on time. My email is tylerin@ami.com, and it's also listed in your chat screen on the presentation should you need to reach me. Quick side note, if you're located on the West Coast, your pizza will be arriving at 11 a.m. local time. As it says, that is the earliest that the restaurants out there open. So if you're in Washington, Oregon, or California, once again, your pizza will be arriving at 11 a.m. Number two, please ask us questions. We want to provide as much of an interactive experience for all of you as we can. So feel free to shoot your questions over via the Q&A communicator located at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and we will either get to your question live on air or send you a message back on the Q&A communicator. And finally, if we do experience any technical difficulties today, such as losing the audio or if the screen becomes grainy for a moment, just please bear with us while we fix the issue. Technical issues are rare, but they can strike at any moment. But that's all I've got, so let's get on to the fun stuff. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Andrew for part one of the presentation today.
Awesome. Thanks, Tyler. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Andrew Lacey. I'm a member of the sales team here at AMI, and today we're going to be talking about virtual desktop infrastructures, or VDI, as well as our SnapVDI product line. So I'll be going through a quick slide deck here. Then Matthew, one of our VDI engineers, he's going to show a live demo of the SnapVDI management interface. So here's a quick agenda of what we'll be covering in the presentation. I'll do an introduction to AMI as a company, for those of you that aren't already familiar with us. I'll do an overview of VDI technology in general. Then we're just going to dive headfirst into SnapVDI. So I'll do an introduction to SnapVDI. I'll explain the architecture, what sets us apart from other VDI solutions on the market today. We'll throw some real-world pricing out there to show you how we stack up to the competition. And I'm also going to give an overview of our SnapVDI support, and we'll wrap up with a live demo of the management interface, as Tyler mentioned. Please don't hesitate to ask any questions or anything throughout the presentation, and we'll do our best to answer them via the chat as we go along. Sometimes we get a little bit more that we can handle while we're running through this live, so for those of you that we don't get to during the presentation, if that does happen, we will be sure to send an email following the event with some answers. So who is AMI? I'm sure a lot of you on this webinar are already very familiar with AMI through one of our various products. We were founded over 3 decades ago in Atlanta, Georgia in 1985, and our original founder is actually still our president and CEO today. We have a worldwide presence with 12 offices across the globe, including offices in US, Germany, India, China, Japan, Taiwan, South Korea. However, our worldwide headquarters is in Atlanta, Georgia. And this isn't just where our sales, marketing, and engineering sit, but perhaps most importantly, this is where all of our support is located as well. So if you do happen to call into our support, you will be directly dialing an engineer sitting in Atlanta, Georgia. All of our support is US-based. We do not outsource our support or host it overseas. We got over 1,400 employees worldwide, over 80% of which are in engineering, so this is just a true testament to our focus on engineering high-quality products and offering them to our customers at fair prices. Our mission statement is providing our customers the highest quality products, first time, every time. Between all of our divisions at AMI, we have 1 or more products in over half the computers in the world. So whether you're aware of it or not, there's a very good chance that your infrastructure has relied on at least one of our products to stay up and running over the years. We have over 375 patents as a company, and we also have an ISO 9001 certification for those companies that need it. AMI BIOS. I'm sure that the reason that many of you already know AMI is from AMI BIOS. And for those of you who weren't familiar with AMI before now, the images on this slide might be jogging your memory a little bit, hopefully so. We launched AMI BIOS in 1985, and this is what undoubtedly put AMI on the map. We quickly became the worldwide leader in BIOS software, and this is still a title and a claim that we have a very strong grasp on today, with over 65% of the BIOS market share worldwide and growing. Millions of systems with AMI BIOS ship every year in everything from servers, storage arrays, laptops to desktops, and even newer hardware such as like thin clients and zero clients for VDI, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Another product I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with is the MegaRaid controller card. We launched MegaRaid in 1994, and by 1996, 1997, we were the largest third-party manufacturer of RAID controller cards in the world. We sold this division off to LSI Logic in 2001, but in 2004, we brought this MegaRaid team back to AMI, kind of like brought the band back together, and began developing our own high-performance SAN devices using that same technology and that same experience, which ultimately became our StoreTrans division. StoreTrans, this was founded in 2004 by the MegaRaid team, and this is the data storage division of AMI. StoreTrans manufactures high-performance SSD hybrid arrays, which is a combination of solid-state and spinning disk drives in the same unit, as well as all flash SAN arrays for higher performance. We have thousands of these units shipped and installed worldwide with a very heavy focus on the small to medium-sized business niche, or SMB. And I believe we even have a few StoreTrans customers tuned into this webinar, so we appreciate you joining us today and appreciate your business. We have a lot of these systems deployed for VDI environments as an integrated solution, which we'll touch more on in a bit here. And so real quick, the last AMI slide before we start jumping into VDI is MegaRack, and this is our remote access controller division. We launched this division in 1997, and we took on Dell as a customer the following year, in 98, to manufacture their iDRAC card. We've also taken on HP as a customer since then, so for those of you that are familiar with the Dell iDRAC card, that remote access controller, or the HP ILO card, their remote access controller, that's actually heavily founded on AMI's MegaRack technology that we work very closely with them on. So what is VDI? I'm sure a lot of you are already very knowledgeable of what VDI is and what it entails, but I'm going to start off with some of the basics for those of you that aren't as familiar. It is a lunch and learn. So VDI stands for Virtual Desktop Infrastructure, and it is essentially bringing virtualization to that next logical stage, that next logical level. Nearly everything else in the IT infrastructure has already been virtualized. Your storage has been virtualized, servers have been virtualized, switches, and VDI is what virtualizes your end user desktops. So with VDI, users' operating systems reside within a dedicated virtual machine on a central server or a central server cluster, and physical servers are typically replaced, physical desktops are typically replaced with either thin clients or zero clients that connect users to that central server cluster. So simply put, it's really just a shift from the local client-centric view to a central server-centric view, since all of your users' data and resources are coming from that central location. So what are some of the advantages of implementing VDI? The biggest advantage of VDI, hands down, has got to be the ease of management. So since all of your users are centralized to a server or a server cluster, you can manage and monitor all users within your environment from a single access point, which includes the ability to do mass software updates, software installations, and patch updates, opposed to updating desktops one by one by one. So just imagine really being able to deploy hundreds of desktops, fully functional software suites with just a few clicks of a mouse. Another advantage here is uptime. VDI solutions, including SnapVDI, run on enterprise hardware opposed to that consumer-grade hardware that users are typically running on. These solutions have full redundancy, so in the event of a failure, and this just translates into more uptime and worker productivity. And power savings. That's another big advantage that isn't really commonly brought up. Zero clients use about 5 to 7 watts of power, whereas desktops, or standard desktops, use about 50 watts, so about a tenth of the power usage. And you can extrapolate that over your entire user base when you have hundreds of users or even thousands of users, and you can begin to imagine the amount of power savings that you'll be realizing year over year. The next one here is security. Opposed to traditional desktop infrastructures with numerous points to protect, VDI only has a single point to secure. So you can also set policies and permissions at the user level to manage what users can and cannot access. You can lock USB ports on our Zero clients to protect against user viruses, which will further cut back on any type of external threat. And the last advantage here is versatility. With VDI, you can create different types of users, with the two main types being pooled, also called non-persistent or persistent. So for those of you that aren't familiar with these terms, a pooled user is one that uses the same applications more or less day in and day out, and they don't really need the ability to add software or customize their desktop. So, for example, if a pooled user downloads the software to their desktop, once they end that user session and log back in, that application will be gone. So pooled users can only use the applications that are part of the template that is created by their administrator, and their settings will revert back to that template at the beginning of each session. Now, their user data is all saved, of course, but their settings just remain the same in adherence with that template that's created. Persistent users, on the other hand, are basically just like traditional desktops in the sense that any software that's downloaded or settings that are adjusted are saved to that user. So those are the two different types of users, non-persistent and persistent, that you can create in VDI, and you can also integrate your own devices, called Bring Your Own Device or BYOD. So you can log into VDI or SnapVDI via tablets or laptops or any type of other devices that can really just get onto your network.
All right, and just wanted to let everyone know we've opened up a poll question regarding, we just kind of like to know who out there kind of already knows what we're talking about and versus, how many people may not know, very much about VDI at all. So I just opened up a poll question. It's just very simple. It says, are you currently using VDI today? Just a simple yes or no. That poll will be open for a few minutes. So feel free over the next couple of minutes while you're enjoying your pizza, just answer yes or no to that. When it's complete in a few minutes, we will go ahead and just kind of share the results with everybody, just so that way, you can kind of know how your colleagues are faring with VDI and that kind of stuff. But I'll turn it back over to Andrew, and like I said, we'll stop again in just a couple of minutes just to see the poll results.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Tyler. I really appreciate everyone's participation on that in advance. And we'll check on that in just a couple minutes here. So there are two different types of VDI implementations. There's integrated and there's standalone. So an integrated VDI solution, this is what utilizes your existing server and storage infrastructure. And this is most common, especially for smaller VDI deployments, where you can comfortably accommodate users on your existing hardware without having to worry about anything. Standalone solutions are dedicated to VDI, so the hardware and software is only put to use for the VDI solution. And these are more common for larger deployments. They're a little bit easier to wrap your hands around and know exactly what's going on. A couple of the big advantages of a standalone VDI solution over an integrated solution are user management and performance. Those are definitely the two biggest. So with a standalone solution, it's much easier to determine exactly what users are using what resources and how many resources they need since they're contained in a segmented environment, whereas with an integrated solution, it's much more difficult to determine what resources you have available, how many resources you need for your users, how many users you can maintain without bogging down your entire infrastructure, and so on and so forth. So just to reflect that last slide, we have a lot of StoreTrans customers with high-performance hybrid or all-flash storage arrays that are running VDI on those units, but the majority of these customers we have there are also running their production environment off of the unit, and they've simply added like Horizon View, VMware's Horizon View licenses as needed. So this would be considered an integrated solution. If you want to have everything on a single system, including your VDI environment, we have a good bit of StoreTrans customers doing this and would recommend this route, especially if you only have a handful of VDI users. So let's say if you only have maybe like 5 to 20 or so, 5 to 20 or so users, and don't really plan on expanding much on that in the future, that might be the most economical route for you. SnapVDI, on the other hand, this is a standalone VDI solution, meaning this will be completely isolated and completely segmented from your production environment, your databases, applications. The only thing SnapVDI utilizes are your existing network fabric, your DHCP server, Active Directory, and firewall. Everything else is completely standalone from a hardware and software perspective.
All right, well, just a couple of quick things. One, we've had a couple of questions come in, so we're going to go ahead and ask Matthew one of those, and when he gets done answering that, we'll go ahead and reveal the poll results. But one of the questions we got, Matthew, was from Anthony. He just asked what kind of bandwidth is used by each desktop instance.
Right, okay. So bandwidth is an interesting question. Of course, every environment's different. It always depends on what applications you're using. Typically, we see for our three user types, we have task, knowledge, and power. For task users, we normally see them use about maybe 10 megabits per second. Then going up, we go up to, say, 25 for the knowledge. And then power, of course, depends if they're using heavy three-dimensional applications like CAD or video editing software. It can always vary, but about a 1 gig line is sufficient for them as well.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks, Matthew. And we've gone ahead and closed the poll for the, like I said, for the are you currently using any VDI question. Looks like right at about half of you said no, you're not using any VDI currently. And that's, I guess, about what we expected. About 25% of you said yes, you are using VDI in some sort of capacity, and then obviously we have about 25% didn't answer. So, like I said, we got about half of you guys who said no VDI at all, which is great. That means, you know, you're kind of interested, you're getting started, and, you know, you're getting ahead of the curve a little bit. And for those of you who already have VDI, I mean, congratulations. You guys are way ahead of the 8 ball on this one.
Yeah, definitely. Really appreciate everyone's participation on that, and also for the questions that we have come in. We'll do our best to answer this as we go. And like Tyler mentioned, for those of you that don't have VDI, hopefully we can give you some valuable information if y'all are projecting maybe an implementation in the near future. And for those of you that already have VDI, maybe we can also provide some information on the other side of that on how we kind of stack up to maybe what you already have. So now we're going to start going into more detail on SnapVDI's components and architecture. There are 5 main components that make up SnapVDI, and I have slides that are dedicated to each one of these that we'll kind of go over in a couple minutes here. But to summarize them real quick, Spark, this is our patented caching acceleration software that guarantees high performance and high quality user experience to each user. Manager, SnapVDI Manager, this is our interface that allows the administrator to manage and monitor the entire solution from a single access point. SnapVDI servers are 2 servers in high availability for complete redundancy. SnapVDI storage, this is a fault-tolerant storage console that stores all of your users' data. And the 0 clients are the end-user devices that include our patented SnapVDI View firmware. The last component here is Microsoft. SnapVDI does utilize Microsoft licenses, the majority of which most of our customers already have in their infrastructure, but if not, we can provide these to you as well, and they'll just be pre-installed in the system when it shows up, so it's really just a simple plug and play. So here's a visual representation of the SnapVDI architecture, and I think it's easiest on this to explain, starting from the bottom of the chart, starting from the bottom of that image, and then kind of working our way up to the top. So at the bottom we have what's called the SnapVDI Brick, and this includes the SnapVDI storage appliance and those 2 SnapVDI servers in high availability, and that also has Microsoft Enterprise Cluster software running on the servers. Our SnapVDI Manager software resides on the Microsoft layer, and it comes pre-installed on the system, no additional cost. And this is where administrators, this is where you'll be creating and deploying VMs for all of your users. SnapVDI plugs into your existing network, which then connects SnapVDI to your user 0 clients, where you can also differentiate between your pooled and your persistent users. As I mentioned a minute ago, the servers and storage make up what we call the SnapVDI Brick. The 2 servers in the Brick are in an HA configuration for complete redundancy with no single point of failure in the event of any type of a hardware issue. So this ensures that your users are constantly up and running without any type of degradation to performance. Also, since the servers are fault tolerant, with one being active and one being passive, we can actually upgrade the servers and upgrade really your entire VDI solution with 0 downtime and no maintenance windows. And we would just simply do this by first upgrading that passive server, the passive controller on that server, then essentially performing the failover to the upgraded controller, then upgrading the now passive server, and then failing back over. So there's no downtime required for hardware maintenance or for any type of software updates that we'll release. The storage component is the central repository for all of your user data. And this is a dual controller RAID-protected array that also supports snapshots and replication for complete data protection. We support replication between separate SnapVDI bricks. So, for example, if you have a few branch offices, each with their own SnapVDI brick, you can replicate between them for additional redundancy, just to protect against any type of like a major site disaster. Also, all of our all of our hardware in the storage console is field replaceable and hot swappable. So, if you need to replace a drive, power supply, anything as simple as cooling fans, all of this can be done on the fly without any type of disruption. And Spark. Our Spark software is our primary differentiator between SnapVDI and really any other VDI solution on the market. This is our patented caching acceleration algorithm, and this utilizes auto-tiering functionality. So opposed to caching that follows the first in, first out methodology, that FIFO methodology, Spark actually monitors how frequently the data is accessed at the block level, and it'll keep this data, this hot data, on the cache layer, which is our RAM layer. And this really just ensures that you and your users are constantly receiving that extreme performance as well as an unmatched user experience. This is very similar to the auto-tiering technology that I'm sure many of you have in your primary SAN or NAS storage arrays. We are the only vendor who's taken the time to develop our own software that's specifically geared, specifically engineered toward delivering high performance to hundreds of VDI users simultaneously. Some of the highlights from Spark are, of course, performance, faster than the desktop, and the entire VDI infrastructure can boot within seconds with immediate access to applications, far less physical storage because of data duplication. It's being done on the cache layer, faster VM provisioning and cloning, and all of these ultimately translate into improved user productivity. SnapVDI Manager, this is the interface that we'll show a demo of. Matthew will show a demo of in a few minutes here. And this interface allows administrators to manage the entire VDI infrastructure, so all of your users, from just a single access point. This is where you manage and monitor your users, provision system resources per user requirements. You can mass install software and patches, opposed to doing it desktop by desktop. You can also create desktop templates for your different types of users. So, for example, let's say like a school. A school could have one template for their students, one template for their teachers, separate template for their administrative staff, so you can really have a pretty granular grasp on exactly how you want to carve the system out and customize it to exactly what your business case is. SnapVDI Manager can be accessed either locally or remotely as well, all from that single interface, that single access point. The last SnapVDI component is the Zero Client. This is the end-user device that typically replaces those bulky desktop towers and routes the user to their data and their resources. So their CPU, their RAM, their GPU that's on the central servers of that central server cluster. Our Zero Client uses about 7 watts of power, as I mentioned earlier, compared to usually about 50 watts for the average desktop tower. Definitely varies between how intensive the I/O is, and how many processors and RAM and so on and so forth. But our Zero Clients, they also include our own firmware called View, and this works with our Spark technology that ensures that high performance, but also allows us to do some cool stuff. Like we can do USB port locking, so we can actually lock individual USB ports, which is just great for security and virus protection, and just making sure that no external threats brought in by any of your users, whether intentionally or unintentionally, makes its way into your network. Another cool feature we have is our network power on and power off, and this really allows you to schedule your Zero Clients to power on and power off at certain times of the day to just further increase power savings. Our clients also support dual monitors, and we support both VGA and DVI connections, which can be simultaneously used if required. Another thing worth noting here is that while we do provide our own Zero Clients, SnapVDI also functions with clients from other vendors. So if you already have clients in your environment, maybe from an existing VDI implementation, like ProLogic thin clients, see a lot of those. Dell Wise thin clients, see a lot of those as well. Just a couple examples. or even if you would like to repurpose your desktops already in your environment, you can absolutely do so. However, with that being said, our Zero clients were specifically engineered to function with the entire SnapVDI solution as a whole, so they will deliver higher performance and a little bit more functionality than what you would realize with other thin clients or Zero clients from other vendors. As I mentioned earlier, the SnapVDI solution does require external Microsoft licenses, which we listed out here. There are 4 licenses total, 2 of which are dedicated more on the server side. So we have the enterprise server licenses, 2016 data center licenses, and the software assurance pack. And the other 2 are user specific. So we have the RDS license and the Microsoft VDA license per user. Worth noting, we can provide the entire solution that includes the licenses if you don't already have them, but we don't include them by default, and there are 2 reasons behind this. The first reason is that most of our customers already have at least 1 or 2 of the licenses in their environment already that you can leverage, and the second reason being pricing. We do work with a lot of organizations, especially like nonprofits and public sector organizations, to get better pricing from Microsoft than what we can provide being a reseller. So we don't want to penalize any of our customers by making them pay for licenses or making them pay for the same licenses again. So once again, if you want all of the licenses included, or you just don't want to touch anything at all, and you just don't want to mess with it, we can provide all of these licenses you need to be up and running, but the solution doesn't include them by default. So let's talk about the physical models that SnapVDI offers, the actual product that we're selling here. We have 3 models for SnapVDI. We have what's called a B50, B100, and a B150 brick. The B50 can maintain up to 50 standard knowledge users, and just as a quick disclaimer, a knowledge user is just like your standard Office user, just running off of Microsoft Office, maybe PowerPoint, access to the internet. So when we say knowledge user, basically it's just like your standard Office user. So B50 can hold up to 50 of these knowledge users. B100 can manage up to 100 users, and B150, of course, 150 knowledge users. And once again, each of these bricks includes 3 total units. So that's going to be 2 fault-tolerant servers and 1 dual controller storage appliance. Worth noting also as well, SnapVDI, we do follow a modular expansion path, meaning if you have 200 users, you could have a B150 and a B50, or let's say you have 400 users, we could spec out 2 B150 bricks and a B100. So essentially, with the bricks, we can hit any increment of 50 users, but we can also further refine our solution through the amount of Zero clients we provide. So it doesn't have to be, B50 doesn't have to have 50 Zero clients to go with it. So let's say you have 140 users, we can scope out a B150 with just 140 Zero clients, which will give you another 10 users to work with before you need to add another brick. So what are some of the advantages of SnapVDI specifically over other VDI solutions? The first one here is seamless integration. SnapVDI is the only turnkey, ready-to-deploy hardware and software solution that plugs into your existing network. So it's just one solution from one vendor. Whereas multi-vendor solutions, on the other hand, they can get very messy, especially when it comes to support. You probably had a scenario where you have an issue and you call VMware and they point a finger at your EMC storage, who then blames your HP switches, who then blames your Dell servers. But because SnapVDI is a complete solution, there's a single installation and there's also a single support call if any issues do happen to arise. Multi-vendor solutions are also almost always more expensive, which we'll take a look at in a second here. And they're almost never purpose-built for VDI. So while some of the components like VMware Horizon View or Citrix's Zen Desktop, those are specifically for VDI, they always rely on commodity server and storage hardware or an existing hardware infrastructure that's not specifically tuned or geared toward just VDI. The next benefit is the performance, and this is largely due to our proprietary Spark caching software that we covered earlier. The entire solution was purpose-built from the ground up for VDI. And as with any other IT product, or really any other product in general, when all of the components are made to work together and made from the get-go to understand each other, it just inherently guarantees higher performance and higher reliability across the system as a whole. And the last benefit here is the value. I'll compare our pricing to other VDI solutions in the next couple of slides, and you'll see that we'll beat other vendor solutions by at least 15% on price. We also offer free POC systems, so if you'd like to test and evaluate the equipment in-house, I usually do these for about 30 days. Prior to purchasing, you can do so with zero risk, zero investment. For our POC units, we actually will send you a brand new system so that if you do decide to purchase the unit at the end of the evaluation period, you can simply just roll directly into that solution, into that unit, as your production VDI environment, opposed to having to rip everything out, ship it back, then have a new system shipped out and then installed. We typically include 10 zero clients with our POCs. So if you need more for a full rollout, we'll simply just ship out the additional clients that are required for your project. If you are interested in doing a POC for SnapVDI, please reach out to Tyler Newberry. You all should have received an email or a couple emails from him at some point prior to this event. He'll be more than happy to send over further information and get you all set up with everything you need and just over further details on the process. So the next couple of slides here are quick screenshots comparing us and real-world competing solutions for 150 VDI users. So the first one is SnapVDI compared to a VDI solution comprised of pure storage for the storage piece. It's an all-flash array, and VMware for the virtualization layer, and Cisco for the physical servers. And you can pretty much replace some of these components with their competitors. So for instance, maybe put in EMC all-flash instead of pure storage, or HP instead of Cisco, and you'll come out with more or less the same total price. Won't be that much different, but this is real-world pricing of what you would see for the solution. You can see they both have the same type of hardware. We both have servers. We both have storage in either zero clients or thin clients. Their solution uses VMware's virtualization software, while we're using Microsoft virtualization software. But the competing solution is priced noticeably higher. The solution has about a 20% higher cost per user than our SnapVDI solution. So for 150 users in this scenario, you would save almost $47,000 with the SnapVDI solution. Same deal here, except we're comparing VMware and SnapVDI, which SnapVDI, this is a hyper-converged vendor, and they actually just got bought by HP, I think, a week or two ago. But hyper-converged, this just means that the servers and the storage are combined into a single physical device. Similar to the last slide, regardless of whether we're looking at SnapVDI or Scale Computing or Nutanix, which are other hyper-converged vendors, the pricing will be more or less the same. All other things equal, the SnapVDI cost per user is about 15% less than this solution, even though we're using 3-year support pricing compared to their 1-year support, and also just being one vendor with one turnkey product. For 150 users, you would save upwards of $40,000 with the SnapVDI solution in this scenario. The last slide here before we jump into the demo is SnapVDI Support. One call, that's all. So once again, compared to other VDI solutions, our support is a one-stop shop. All of our support is based out of our headquarters here in Atlanta, Georgia, so we do not outsource our support to many of our international offices. Everything comes directly from our headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia. We offer both next business day on-site services as well as 4-hour on-site if required or desired, as well as zero downtime maintenance and software upgrades as well. Our support terms range from 1 to 5 years, but we can also co-term our support plans. So if you would like them to coincide with the support plans you already have on your existing hardware or software licenses, we can absolutely make that happen. We're very flexible. So that's all for me. At this point, I'll go ahead and hand things over to Matthew. Give him a minute here to get the SnapVDI Manager demo up and running, and he'll go through a live demo of that. But please keep the questions coming. Thank you again for tuning in, and we'll start the demo now.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. One second while I get our demo up and running. Alrighty, so what I'm going to be doing here today is walking us through the average life cycle that a VDI administrator would use our solution for. So as Andrew mentioned, this is an all-inclusive centralized software. Everything that you would need to do and utilize for a VDI solution is all done from this UI. So let me go ahead and log in. Now, the first thing you'll see once you log in is a breakdown of all the current tasks that have occurred or are occurring on the system, as well as a directory tree to help you through the process. So here at the bottom, we can see that I have a few tasks that are pending, waiting to start because I scheduled them for a later time, as well as the history of what tasks I've had in the system and the whole history. So the first thing that you'd want to do is you jump into a VDI solution is, of course, set up your VM templates. Now, VM templates are broken into two parts. We have the hardware profile and the OS profile. So what the hardware profile is a breakdown of all of the resources that our VMs are going to have. So I have some already pre-configured. They consist of how many processors does the solution or the VM have, how much memory, storage, etc. These are completely customizable. We can edit it for a per-user basis if some require more resources than others. We also have the OS profile, which is what type of OS do you want in your system? Do you want Windows 7, 8, 10? We can load those in. Licenses are already applied. With those two resources in hand, we can actually go ahead and create a VM. Very simple process. To generate a VM, we take those two components, the hardware profile and the OS profile. We can either set them up here, or we can make them on the fly. So I'll go ahead and load in one of the pre-configured hardware profiles I had, as well as the OS I'd like. We are tightly integrated with Active Directory, so all of your users that you would have are populated as well. I'll go ahead and grab a user just to demonstrate. And we can schedule this to be created at a later time. For example, say you had a new employee joining your company and you'd like a VM for them, or a new department opening up within your company. We can go ahead and create this VM, set it to create at midnight tonight. It'll be available for tomorrow. It's not intrusive, so you don't have to worry about any overhead during this creation process since you scheduled it for a later time. With those created, we can actually go to our Desktop Explorer and see exactly how many VMs we've rolled out. So what we just did was create a VM. We can then make that into a golden image, which can then be sent across to multiple sessions. We can also provide you with personalized desktops, which is what we see here with these guest machines. These are all, for this group, all personalized desktop creations. We can also put those into pools. The difference between a personal and a pooled user is a pooled user is something you'd expect to see at, for example, a school for education purposes or a library, where every time a user logs in, they're getting a fresh VM image that is static across the board, whereas the personalized desktop is something you'd expect from your own laptop or a computer at home. We also provide you with a lot of ease of use. Say, like I mentioned earlier, you have a new employee join. We can simply modify or assign a user. Say we want Steve in accounting to work in the, or have a VM available in the guest machine personal group. We can easily select him from Active Directory, add him in. We also have plenty of provisioning tools. So in the past, it's always been a problem if you have multiple users out in the field who all need a update to their system or a patch applied for whatever software they're using. Well, now we can simply select that entire group of users and patch and provision all of them at once. So they're all consistent, they all have the same patch and software update applied, the same version across the board. So you don't have to go and do all of these on-site visits or call all of these users in to apply this update. We can also redeploy the VMs from here, as well as view what users are online. So here we have 5 users online. We can see how long they've been on for, when they logged in, as well as who they are and what VM they're connected to. Let's see. Beyond that, we also provide you a detailed breakdown on our clients. So from here we can see all the clients that are set up out in the field. Say you're working more towards a shop with counter guys running multiple sales. Well, we can see all those clients that we set out in the store. We can quickly access them, lock them, turn them off if there's any nefarious actions going on. You also have full control to jump on and view the active session from here as well. Beyond that, we can also control the policies and the user policies that we have for both the thin clients themselves as well as the users that are accessing these VMs. So here in the client policy editor, I can see exactly what these different client policies have applied to them. Here on the right-hand side, we can see that this conference room user has access to enabling the audio redirection as well as changing the date and time. We also have various other options that they can apply for safety precautions. Say you have an intern that is just joined, we can make sure that they're limited to their uses as far as connecting to separate Wi-Fis or browsing the internet. We can also do this on the user level, so we can select any of the users that we have and edit them, change their policies to make them more towards administrator purposes or just regular user appliances. We also keep track of all of the software licensing that you have in your system. We can tell how many licenses we have available, when they're running out, and all of this can be managed from here as well, including all of our OS licenses, RDS, as well as the SVM licenses. In addition to all of the VDI solution that we have implemented, we also want to keep track of all the physical components that make up our solution. So for our storage summary, we can see exactly what's online, what its health is. For this example, I have one of my Spark disks down to show you what it would look like. We also have our email alerts set up in this unit, so you would receive an email alert anytime something were to occur. We also allow you to make customized alerts for your system if any thresholds are met or broken. Here you can see a more detailed breakdown of all the disks that make up the storage component of our solution as well. We can also make sure that we can check on the enclosure properties, see what exactly is applied. Power supplies are okayed, chips are okay, hardware, and the voltage, of course, and the fans. We do support failover. This is a very important thing for the industry to have 2 servers available. If one server goes down, the other will always be ready to pick up right where the last one left off, so this is an active-passive relationship between the two. And here we can see that we have our first server online and is ready to go, and our secondary, which is in a passive state, waiting for anything to go wrong in the system on the primary server. It'll pick up right where it left off, so you won't be affected. And lastly, the last thing I want to touch on is, of course, our email alert system. So here we have a variety of different alerts built into the system. These are completely customizable. You can add as many as you want for any specific incident that might occur in your system that goes beyond our defaults. These are a few of them I have in place. For example, if the enclosure is entered, a warning will be released via email, as well as any cluster or physical damage to the unit. All right, and that just about summarizes the overview for SnapVDI.
Awesome. Well, we'll go ahead and move over to the question and answer section of the remaining few minutes that we have on the presentation. We'll take a few seconds to answer questions that came in via the registration, and feel free to keep sending your questions via the Q&A communicator. We will get to them if we have time. If not, we'll jot down your names and make sure that we have you at least a response by the end of the day or something like that if we're not able to get to your question live on air or via the the Q&A communicator. So we'll just go ahead and get started, knock out a few of these for these guys. I guess first question for Andrew. This came to us from Jared in Florida. What is involved with deploying VDI, and what are some of its benefits? So I know we've covered this a little bit, but if you can just kind of take a second to go back over it, I think it'd be beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. It's a pretty loaded question, and I'll try to probably be better off to just give two answers to it. So as far as what's involved in deploying VDI, it really depends. It depends on if we're doing an integrated solution, depends on if we're doing a standalone solution. It may involve just as little as getting some VMware licenses or some Citrix licenses for your users, or just some zero clients, or really utilizing what you have right there. Or if we're looking at SnapVDI, it could involve the standalone hardware and software VDI solution. So it really does depend on exactly what VDI solution you're looking for. As far as its benefits, that's really largely the same just for VDI in general. The primary benefits are going to be, like we covered, security is a huge one, power savings is a huge one, but the biggest one, hands down, has got to be the management. Just the ability to either locally or remotely, you're monitoring your users, you're managing your users, you can mass update your software, provision all the resources that they need. That's definitely, the management aspect has got to be the biggest of the benefits for VDI in general. But there are definitely several that we had covered earlier as well.
Awesome. So next question comes to us from Adrian in Georgia. I guess we want to do a little compare and contrast to some of the other VDI vendors out there, maybe the ones that you guys are a little bit more familiar with at this point. But how is SnapVDI better than Citrix or VMware?
Yeah. Another great question. I'll try to field this one without slinging too much mud. So I would say that about half our installations are usually with people that, customers that don't have VDI, and the other half are with customers that currently are running VDI, and it's always with Zen Desktop or Horizon View. The biggest, reviews that we get, rating reviews that we get is on the performance side. While we might have a little bit more functionality on the management aspect than Citrix or VMware can offer, performance is really where we shine, and I think this is really what it comes down to, like we were talking about earlier, of course, as well, just having a ground-up solution that's dedicated for a business case, for a business need. So, we can offer higher performance because we have all of the hardware, we have specialized software that's meant to go with specific hardware as well, and just because you can streamline that and all the components are fully aware, and we don't have any type of disparate aspects to the solution, that definitely helps us have much noticeably higher performance is usually what we hear over both Citrix and VMware.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you, Andrew. I believe this next question is for Matthew. So looking at, I guess kind of from things from a more resource perspective, this one came to us from Andrew in Massachusetts. What resources are needed on the server, and is there failover in the case of a failure or something like that?
Right. So as I touched on, we do have failover. These are in an active-passive relationship. As far as the resources go, our servers are built in with over 700 gigs of memory, as well as, I think, multiple options for our CPUs. By default, I think they're 10-core CPUs. So yeah, and of course, if you met more towards a VM level, We do have 3 defaults built in, so typically on a per user basis we see that our task users use about 1 processor and 1 gig of virtual memory. Knowledge use 2 and 2, and then power go up to 4 processors, 4 gigs of memory.
Okay, awesome. And Matthew, I think this next question is for you as well. This one comes to us from Jason in Michigan. I guess he just wants to talk a little bit about the 3D graphics and how well they work with SnapVDI.
Absolutely. We're no strangers to CAD and Adobe Premiere and Suite. We do provide optional attachment to our solution for additional GPU purposes so that you can implement and utilize applications that are heavy hitters and 3-dimensional applications as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Matthew. I'll let you get back to answering those questions on the Q&A communicator. Again, everybody, really appreciate all the participation we've got in the Q&A communicator. Lots of great questions, and we're trying to respond to those on the Q&A communicator as quickly as we can. But like I said, we are getting a ton of them, so if we're not able to get to your question within the allotted time today, we do apologize, but we will jot down your name and make sure that we at least email you over a response, hopefully by the end of the day today. But again, thank you so much for your participation. Next question comes to us for Andrew. This one's from Hazel in Pennsylvania. And I guess very basic, how hard is it to roll out SnapVDI?
Sure. Appreciate the question, Hazel. It's actually extremely simple to roll out SnapVDI solution just because it is just a prepackaged all-in-one solution. And one of the other cool things that we can do as well, we do pretty commonly for our customers that have maybe like a headquarters in one city, and then they have like some branch offices. We can even ship out, when we do the full purchase, we can even ship out 0 clients on an as-needed basis to your individual sites where you need them. But really, as far as just the initial rollout, it takes maybe about 4 to 6 hours. It can be an intensive installation because all of your users are going to be relying on the solution. So it takes a little bit of time, but it's extremely simple. This is just plug and play. As long as you already have the existing network fabric in there, we just can put the solution in there. It'll immediately recognize the network. It basically gets you comfortable with the management aspects, the SnapVDI Manager. We do on-site installation and training, no charge. And really just make sure that you're comfortable with the solution, get all the 0 clients set up, make sure your users are good to go, and then that's just about it. So it's pretty straightforward and pretty simple.
Okay. We'll let Matthew keep answering the questions that he's doing on the Q&A communicator because he's typing away over there like a madman right now. So we'll just go ahead and skip to the next question for Andrew. This one comes to us from Paul in Virginia. I guess just trying to get like a rough guesstimate on price and cost of VDI. But he asks, how costly is a VDI rollout?
Sure. It's another loaded question, and honestly, we are pretty open with our pricing because we are extremely competitively priced, as we had those couple of slides with those real-world scenarios against the competition and their competing VDI solutions. However, the fact of the matter is that it just completely varies. It varies on the types of users that you have. It varies on, it really depends on if you're going to be repurposing desktops, if you are going the 0-client route, how many bricks you have, how many users you have. Naturally, as we get more users on each one of these bricks, the cost per user goes down. So, I don't really have a standard answer. I wish I could provide a standard answer on a cost per user, but there are a lot of factors that come into play when we're calculating the cost per user and the entire cost of the solution. If you wanted to, or really anyone else on the webinar as well, if you would like to receive pricing for SnapVDI, please contact Tyler Newberry and maybe send over some basic information and details on how many users you have and what those users use. We can absolutely send pricing over to you, or if you would prefer to just have a quick call where we can review exactly what you're working with, if you have projects that's coming up, we would be more than happy to speak with you about that, and that would give us a really firm grasp on what you're dealing with, and therefore an accurate measure on what the price would look like for you.
Okay. And Matthew, I guess if you wouldn't mind just taking a quick second, we just have, I think, just maybe 3 more questions here that came in via the registration.
All right.
First one came to us from Brett in South Carolina. Just want to know about how does antivirus software and or host-based security work with VDI?
All right, so VDI is extremely secure. For example, say you had a user in a pooled group and he just so happens to extract a virus onto his VM. Well, upon logging out, the system would automatically reset that entire VM to its original pre-virus state. We're also built upon Microsoft, so all of your existing antivirus software could be easily implemented into our solution.
Okay, awesome. And I apologize if I get his name wrong, but Keonwin in Tennessee, he just wanted to know kind of what the recommended IOPS for SSDs were to implement a virtual desktop. I'm not sure if he means like an integrated or versus a standalone solution, but
right. So on a per user level, a user on a VM, typically what we see on average for our task users is they're only doing about 1 to 3 IOPS. Knowledge are doing about 3 to 5, and Power is doing about 5 to 10 IOPS. So not very intense, of course. Our system can easily meet all of those requirements.
Awesome. And then we have one more question for Matthew. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and answer this question on air. We'll continue to answer the questions via the Q&A communicator over the next few minutes until the kind of designated 2 o'clock stopping time. So if you're submitted a question on the Q&A communicator, feel free to hang around for the next few minutes while we get that answered. If you got to go, we certainly understand. And if you've already left the chat or something like that, we'll send you an email later on today with the designated answer. But last question that we have here is Nicholas from Texas asked, we do a lot of video editing. How can this be possible with SnapVDI?
Absolutely. So let's go most extreme case. You're using Adobe Suite Premiere. You're doing a large video file of editing. Of course, that's a lot of throughput and resource requirements. We can actually make a hardware profile that has plenty of processing power and VRAM available for you, as well as if it's even more intense, we can have dedicated GPU to that as well. We can also set it dynamically to where if you have multiple people working on video editing, some working on less intensive projects, our system is smart enough to know where to allocate those resources so that everyone gets the appropriate
allocation resources?
Right resources.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Matthew. We'll go ahead and kind of cut it off with the live questions there so that I know we're kind of right up against the hour and we want to make sure everybody's able to get back to work. But we really appreciate everyone's participation today. Like I said just a couple minutes ago, we'll continue to answer the questions live on the Q&A communicator for the next few minutes. So if you have a last-minute one you want to ask, go ahead and feel free to throw it in there. It may take us a few extra minutes to get to all of them, but again, really appreciate everyone's participation today. If you have any questions after the presentation, feel free to look us up on snapvdi.com. You can reach out to the Contact Us section, and that's a way you can get in contact with us and ask us any questions that you may want. Or if you're looking for a quote or something like that, that can all be done on the SnapVDI website as well. But for myself, Andrew, and Matthew, thank you so much again, and we look forward to presenting to you again in the future.
Thanks, everyone.